For the first time ever in our conversations, I want to actually extend a trigger warning for this story that I'm going to tell today about my own personal experience with domination and oppression magic. Because if you are someone who is going through your own intense levels of spiritual warfare, then this video may be particularly triggering. So please watch at your own discretion. But the story that I'm going to tell today begins in 2021. At this time, I had just gotten some spiritual work done that was supposed to offer protection and healing after months of being physically assaulted in my sleep by entities and spirits, and waking up every day with very little desire to actually work on my doctorate degree. So I've gotten some spiritual work done, and I am in the home of the practitioner, sleeping in the guest room. And it's the middle of the night. And I feel something jump on my back and whisper directly into my ear, "I'm about to take you to hell." But at the time, I didn't believe in religious concepts of hell as a place of burning fire where dead people go for all eternity. And I did not believe that a spirit had any power to take me to hell, quote unquote. However, when I reflect back on the years after this experience, I realized that hell is a dimensional and vibrational space that does not require a person to physically die to go there. What this warfare against domination and oppression magic showed me was that a person can be dragged into the realms of hell through a steady and persistent attack on their vibration and their consciousness, because the lower the vibration, the more disconnected we are from the divine heavenly state. So I indeed was dragged to hell and had to fight my way all the way back up. Hello, soul family. It's Oshun Kimmy, mother of mysteries. And today we're talking about domination and oppression magic, which is a brutal type of magic that occurs when a spiritual entity essentially latches onto a person to oppress them and subdue them spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and even physically, all towards the goal and the mission of possessing their vessel full time. And as I said, because this topic is so sensitive and potentially triggering, we're going to go ahead and drop our protection affirmations so that our energy is good for the rest of this conversation. Our affirmation for this video is: through divine favor, I overcome all spiritual warfare. What was sent to destroy me only brings me closer to the divine. So even though now I can recognize that this whole journey was divine and I was never left alone or without actual divine protection, at that time I had no real understanding of magic. So I did not actually believe that sorcery could be done to latch a spirit onto a person and cause that person to descend into lower realms. So let's talk about some of the ways that my life, my vibration, my consciousness indeed changed for the worse after my encounter, where a person I went to for protection work took that as an opportunity to attach a spirit to me. Firstly, due to the presence of this low vibrational entity, demonic entity, I really did begin to act very ungodly. Since my willpower was being dominated and the whole point of the magic was to descend me into lower realms of consciousness, I began to act like a low vibrational person. I was drinking more, I was loose and less disciplined, I was much more detached from my emotions and my faith, and I was spiraling out of control, and I could not help it. Because essentially, it's my willpower against the willpower of a demonic entity. And at the time, I did not have the actual spiritual power and stature to resist the domination of this entity. Because oppression and domination magic involves an entity attaching to the chakra points, all of my energy was distorted, because our chakras is where our energy flow comes from. So my motivation, which is solar plexus energy, was super low. And my focus, which is crown and third eye chakra energy, was impossible. So I was 3 years into my PhD, and suddenly I don't want to write anymore. I don't want to read anymore. I truthfully became downright lazy. I'd wake up and the first thing I wanted to do was eat and watch TV. Domination magic is about dominating the body. What you do, what you focus on, how you behave. And I was acting like someone I'd never been before. And I do want to make clear that I was still technically myself, because domination and oppression magic really just turns you into the worst version of yourself, the most low vibrational version of yourself. I was keeping up chaos everywhere I went, but I could not see that I was the source of the chaos. I thought that everybody around me was crazy. Everybody around me was fake. Everybody around me was out to get me. So one of the functions of domination and oppression magic is to bring a person into ruin, into lowliness. And at some point years later, I looked around and I realized that what I heard on that day, years ago, that something was planning to drag me to hell, had actually occurred. I was expecting the burning flames and the fire, but really, the hell that this entity was referring to was lowliness, low vibrational living, behaving, thinking. So how did I ascend? How did I go through this journey from the heavenly state to the hellish realms and back again? Firstly, I had to identify the root source of the magic. I realized that I had been working with the same practitioner for years, and yet my life was steadily getting worse, which brought me to the rather obvious realization that the person that I was asking for healing was cursing me. And then the other element of this, I was ignoring my own intuition. I was abandoning my own values, my own morals, my responsibilities. And that is what brought me into contract, into agreement with the work and with the entity. Detaching from the person who was sending the magic and then monitoring me to see if the magic was working and how it was working helped me to tap back into my own intuition and my own light power, because I was no longer relying on them for guidance and healing. I started to rely directly on the divine. I surrendered completely before the universe. I stated my name. I took accountability for my lowly behaviors, and I apologized for all the ways that I turned away from my divinity. I apologized and I changed my behavior. I began taking my spiritual practice more seriously. I started to realize, okay, what I have been taught about the world and about the spiritual realm has not been the full story. So I have to learn, okay, entities can do this, spirits can do that. This is how things can be attached to you. So I had to learn and realize, okay, I must learn how to cleanse myself. And I knew exactly which herbs to use because I began communicating with my own spirits nonstop. And the more that I talked to them and the more I talked to the universe, the more they talked back to me. They told me the cleansing remedies. They told me how to fast. They told me how to pray. But once the universe began speaking back to me and I honored the advice it gave, gifts came online. My spiritual rank increased, okay? I gained the power to command energy around me. My faith in the divine grew. And so my power and protection did as well. Me telling my story is my responsibility to the world, to let people know that there is a remedy for even the worst of our spiritual problems and issues. That whatever we are going through, the divine has already made sure that there are remedies and solutions. If you are seeking answers, real solutions to your spiritual warfare experience, and you feel called to book a one-on-one session with me, please know that I would be honored to assist you however the divine leads me to. Because please trust me when I say in every reading, divine forces are in that room. If you feel ready to go deeper into spiritual study within a community of other light workers, I'd highly recommend joining us on the Patreon. Whether I see you on a one-on-one Zoom call, on the Patreon, or simply at the next YouTube video, I pray that the resolution you seek becomes yours to hold. Ashe.